going to try to recreate this animation on Figma. So we are going to do this for the sake of people who are new to Figma. So we'll design it like a beginner. So this is a simple desktop frame. So if we want to recreate this, we click on this desktop icon we have below. So we have different options. We have the iPhone, tablet, desktop, presentation. But since we are doing for a desktop, we'll click the desktop option and then we go to what particular screen is this one. This is the 1440. So we are going to rename it to be blue, because this is going to be our first screen. So we bring out all the AirPods that we are going to make use of. So these are the 4 AirPods that we are going to make use of. So first of all, we can see this background text at the bottom of it. So we are also going to bring out the background colors that we need. So another way of picking color is once you select on this color, you select your picker and then you highlight to where you want to pick, which is this, and then you select it. So we do that for all the colors that we have so that we can easily use them. Once we are done bringing out all the whole backgrounds, we are going to put our background text. So for text, we click on this T that you have here and then let's put it as AirPods. If you want to change the text font, you can easily click on this icon and then select any one that you want. So for our case, we are going to be using this particular font. Then we go ahead to change our background. How this animation works, remember that when we are trying to animate, we have this circle coming down to change the background of the frame. So we are going to create our 4 circles so that as we are moving to the next frame, the circle is going to come down to cover the entire frame. So we have 4 rectangles now. So we are going to make it to be circle and then make that circle to be our background. So let's just make it to be 30-30. Okay, this is quite small. Let's make it 50-50. And then this 4 circles is going to be our background color, so that when we want to change our background, all we have to do is just to drag the circle down to form the background that we want to change. So once we are done having this circle, we'll stack them up how we want the circle to come. So this will bring this one, stack it on top of it, and we'll select the option bring to front. So you can see that we've stacked all our circles and then we put them at the top right, because on our animation, you can see that as the animation is coming, the circle is coming from the top right down to the center of the page. Watch the animation. So it's coming from this top right down to the center of the page. So that is why we are placing our circle on this place. So our AirPods here, once we select our text, we make it to center on the screen by clicking on this position icon to align horizontal center and to align vertical centers. Or once we just move the text, you can see that this red line is trying to guide us at where it has reached the center of the page. So on this first frame that we have here, we are going to increase the circle to cover the entire page, because this is our first background, and then we'll send it to back. So once we increase it enough, we will now center this circle to fit into the frame to cover the entire frames that we have. So the reason why we are sending the circle back to the frame, so that we can easily access every other element on this frame. So you can see that all these other circles that we have here, let's try to rename our circle. Our first circle is number 1, while the second one here is 2. That's for the second frame. This third circle here is 3. So that's when we are trying to change, it's going to help us identify which is the next circle to make as the background of our frame. So since we're not making use of these 2, 3, and 4 frames, we are going to change the appearance to 0. On this appearance section here, when it's 100, we change it to 0. Then when we now want to make use of it, we will change it back to 100. So since we are making use of just this first circle, let's leave it as 100. And then we have our AirPods here. We are going to change the background to white. FFF means white. So we can duplicate by pressing Command D or Control D, or you can just press your Shift Option key and drag it to where you want it to be. So we want this, our second text, to have a stroke and not a fill. We add this plus stroke and change the stroke color to white. We hide the fill color, so we can decide to increase the stroke so that you can easily see what is going on there. So let's leave it at 2, and then also we can decide to put a gradient so that this stroke is not going to be so visible that is going to hinder what this main text that we have here. So let's put it on gradients. This first color we have here is solid, the next color is gradient. So once you make it on gradients, you can see that the gradient is coming from left to right, but in our case we want the gradient to come from top to bottom. So we shift this line to come from top to bottom. We can move this down here and then move this up here, so that our gradient in our case is going to come from top to bottom. So on this bottom frame, once you click on it, we can decide to change the color. So we want this color to be be F, and then we want to reduce the opacity to like say 70. So this next one, so we still want it to be F, but we want it to be so low that it will be faded and it will not be so obvious. So let's leave it at 10. So the same goes for this next one. So we are trying to get the correct positioning of the text to the main text. So what all we have to do is just to click on option key to see the distance between this text and this main text. So let's put it on 185. Then we duplicate it, and then we bring down our next text, and we still put it on 185 so it will be uniform. Let's send this text to the back so that it does not alter our positioning of our newly created text. So we just change the direction of the gradients, and then we make it to come from bottom to top. So once we are done with all of this, we highlight all our text and make sure that they are entirely on the center of the page. So we highlight it, and then we press our option key to show us that okay, this is on the center of the page. 106, 106, 125, 126. Then we move to our text. So we can see here that we have different texts here. If you go back to our animation, you can see how this text was coming in. Just notice how this blue Apple AirPods at the bottom left is changing to a new text. Once you click on it, you see the new text is coming in down to up. That's the same thing that we are going to recreate. So in order to make things faster, we have bought out everything that we need for this our design. But we're going to go through each of them and how we create them and try to recreate them. So firstly is this text. So we have four, like remember we have 4 frames. So we're going to have 4 different type of text so that as we move to our next frame, the next text follows. So to create this text, we just click on this plus text icon we have here, and then we can put it on caps by clicking caps lock on our keyboard. Then we type in the blue Apple AirPods. So we duplicate this text. So we want to put in the price, which is $4.50, but this second text is 16 font. So we change the font on this right panel to 16, and the color also, we change the color. Let's reduce the color to the lightness of this color. Once we go over on this section of our color, you can see this lightness. So we press shift and our arrow key to either reduce or increase the lightness by 10. So that's how I basically either make my color brighter or make it lighter. So once we do that, we now select the 2 fonts and enter and press shift A to make them an auto layout. So we replicate this same thing on all our text to 4 texts that we have. So since we already have that, continue with this one. So we have these 4 texts that I've already created, and then we select all of them and also make all of them an auto layout, shift A. So since we want only one text to appear at a time, we will resize it to contain just this first text, and then we clip it. So we want particular text to appear at a particular time, and we bring it into our frame. So let's put it at 60/40. Then we are going to repeat the same procedure on our buttons we have here. So we also have our 4 buttons: shop blue, shop orange, lilac, green. So we have put them on auto layout already. We highlight all of them, press shift A to put them on auto layout. So we resize it to fit just the first frame, and then we clip it. So we'll bring in this button also into our frame, making it to be on the same alignment with this text. Or we can also highlight this text and we select this align on our position, align vertical centers to align both of the text horizontally. So when we are done with that, we move to our carousel. So let's get rid of this text. So we move to our carousel. This carousel is going to be changing as we move to our next frame. So for now, we are going to make use of this. These are just different circles that we've created, and then we place it in a rectangle, making this rectangle to have a radius of 40 corner radius. So we bring in this our carousel at the bottom, and then we go back again to highlight what we've created, so to better to make everything to be horizontally on the same line. So once we've done that, then we can now move to the top nav of this frame. So we have our icons here that we can bring in into this frame. There are different ways to get our icons. You can either download it from online, or if you already have an existing design system, in another video I can show us how I brought in a design system into this file. So in my case, I have multiple design system I have brought into this file. So say I want to look for icons, all I have to do is to go to this asset panel, just click on search, and then I'll see all the icons I want to use. So for this particular one, this came from Material Trade Design System because I have it on my file. The other one came from Simple Design System. All I have to do is just to drag it into my board. So the same goes for if I want to look for profile or user. Since I'm looking for this user icon, so I search for user, and then I can see that it's also coming from Simple Design, I drag it into here, and the last icon I have is star, so I'll look for star. So this also came from simple design, so I'll drag it. So once I have my 3 icons and I want to resize it to say 20, I'll click on the icon, type K on my keyboard. So once I type K, you can see this scale, 1 scale on the left panel, to show that as you are reducing this particular element, it's going to be reducing proportionally. That is, the left and the right widths are always going to reduce proportionally. So as I'm increasing it, you can see this width is 65, height is 65. If I reduce it, it's also going to be the same thing, 34, 34. So I want it to be 20, so let's bring it down to 20. So this also will be the same thing. I reduce it to 20, or I can easily just type in 20 on the left panel. But before I type in that, I can decide to lock the aspect ratio and type in 20, so that as I'm changing the width of one, the height is also changing together with it. So once we are done with reducing this icon, we select all of them and we align it by clicking on this button here, align vertical centers. So if we want the spacing to be all together, we can make it to be on auto layout by clicking Shift A, and Figma will automatically arrange it for us, and we can change the padding from this if we want it to be closer to themselves. So once you do that, we can now bring it in. So let's change the color of our fonts also to 7070. So once we are done, we bring it into, we can rename it to icons. So once we are done, we bring it into our frame just like we have here. So since we've done this one, let us remove what we have here so that it will be that we've created it together. So let's bring in our newly created icons into this frame, and then we align it also. So this last one is our Apple logo. So we just bring in our Apple logo. You can either get Apple logo by a simple Google search, because this is a company's logo, so we cannot create it from scratch. We just have to use what is already online. So once we highlight our Apple logo and our icons, we select the vertical alignment so that both of them is going to be aligned on the same line. So we'll make this to be closer, to be 20, then this to be 40. So we are done with every other thing on this frame. It's just to bring in our AirPods. This white on this text is too loud, so let's try to reduce it to like 70, so that when we bring in our AirPods, the text is not going to fight importance with our AirPods. So we have our 4 AirPods already here. Remember our animation, our AirPods came in from top to bottom, so you can see how it's coming in. So meaning that we will have to stack our AirPods from top to bottom. So this is going to be our first AirPods on the frame. This will be the second, so that when the second is coming down, it's going to push this first one down. The third will push the second one down. So that is the same way we are going to place it on our frame. So we highlight everything and then place it. If we want to place it like this, it's difficult for us because the frame size is larger than where we are placing it. So we'll bring it in one by one. We bring in this first one and then click on this align horizontal center and align vertical center to be sure that it's at the middle of the page, or we can decide to make it a little bit higher. Then we bring in the second one into the page. Make sure that it is inside the page, and once you ensure that it's inside the page, let's make it to align at the middle of the page, and then we'll have to take it up. So you have to be very careful to make sure that this frame, let's unclip so you can see the content, what is inside. So you have to be very careful to make sure that this AirPods is still within our frame. So we'll bring in our third AirPods into our frame. Make sure it's aligned to the middle, and then we take it up to stack on top of the frame. So we do the same thing for our last AirPod. Make it to align at the middle and then stack it on top of the frame. So we are done with stacking all these AirPods at the top. So we click on our first frame and then we clip it. We clip the contents. So we are done with everything about this first frame. All we have to do is to start duplicating it and then moving things around. So just watch me as I do so. This second one, we can duplicate by pressing Command D, or we just drag. We press our Shift and Option key and then we drag it. So we remember where we have our different circles that we have here. So we have selected our second circle. That is the essence of naming this circle. So initially our appearance is 0, so we'll bring it down to 100, and then we press our K on our keyboard. We increase it to be as large as possible, then make it at the center, then send it to back so we can see every other element on this frame. Okay, because we are sending it to back, we still have our first circle that we had initially, so we turn that circle back to 0 because we don't want that blue circle to appear anymore. We want just this orange circle to appear. So let's increase the size to further cover every part of this frame. So now our second circle is here. So let us now bring in, let's unclip this and bring in our AirPods that we have here. Let's make it to be on the horizontal path. Let's bring in the second AirPods into the frame. So we highlight all these AirPods and then push it down for this second one to come in. So we try to make sure that it's on the same position as it is with the blue one. So once we are done, we clip it because this second one has come in, and then we start changing things around to move to the second one. So you can see on this text we have just this blue option, blue AirPod. I want it to change to the orange option. So since this frame is on auto layout, for us to change this, we first of all remove this frame from auto layout. We can see on this auto layout section is highlighted blue. So to remove it, we click on the toggle to remove it, and once we click on it to remove the auto layout, we click on enter on our keyboard and then we shift it. We hold and shift to the next. So you have to be very careful so that your frame does not go out of the container that it is within. So you shift the orange to come up and then repeat the same for our button. It's still on auto layout. We remove from auto layout, we press our shift and then we adjust our button for the second button to come in, so that our animation, once we try to animate to this, you see what I was saying. So we are going to press on Control D or Command D so that we can continue moving it gradually. You have to be very careful so that your frame does not leave its container. So once we are done, you can see that this place, our carousel have to move to this next phase. So we have to click on our K to resize this first circle and make it to be on the same length, and then bring the second circle bigger. How to get the color that we need? Once you hover on this, you can see this first option we have here. That's how I usually get my color. Hue is, my hue here is 6. So if I want to change this background to have to be like an orange and an orange shade, I come to my hue and put that same 6 I have here. So you can see that this carousel background has changed into orange. So when I'm done, I've successfully changed things around for this second frame. So we are going to repeat the same thing for our third frame. So let's duplicate, or we drag, we hold down our shifts and we drag. So let's first of all name this one to orange. So I wanted to stop here and move to the prototyping, but because of people that might not get it, I'll go over it again. So we have our lilac here. So we are going to redo this same process. First of all, we are going to change our background. And remember that we have our 2 backgrounds. We'll look for the third circle and then we make it bigger. We click on our K and we make it as big as possible. We make it to be center on the page, and then we increase, we make the appearance to be 100. So we will have to make our second circle to be 0 so that our third circle can now outshine. Then we take our third circle, send it to the back so that we can access every other element. So let's unclick to see our third AirPod. So we'll bring in down our third AirPod to be at the middle of the page. Then once we are done with that, we clip our content. So we'll press enter to shift to the next text. So we have to be very, very careful when it comes to this shifting so that our text does not leave our container frame. So once we are done adjusting for this thought, we'll do the same for our button. We press on enter and then we move our button as easy as possible. So once we are done moving into the touch lilac, then we, like I said, if we want to get the hue of this purple, we click on this and DF is 266. So we go to our background, our carousel background, and then we change the hue here to 266 for this shade to move into a purple like shade. So we do the same to our carousel. We reduce the size of it to fit into, and then we increase our third circle. So that is all for this third frame. So we are going to repeat the same for our fourth frame. I'll do that behind the scenes to save time. So we have successfully created these 4 frames, and then now it's time to prototype. This is the moment we've been waiting for. So to prototype, we go to prototype phase and then we click on prototype. So I like to leave my prototype settings on no device. So once we click on this first prototype, so remember how our animation are coming. We click on this carousel and then it moves to orange. We click on this third carousel and then we move to orange. So all we have to do is to click on this our orange carousel and then you can see this plus sign that is showing once you click on any object. So once you click on it, you direct it to where you want it to go to, which is our next frame, and then you change the interactions. So I want the trigger to be on click, so I'll leave it on click. Then I want it to navigate to this next orange destination, which has already been done. Then my animation, I want it to smart animate, and I want the time to be on 700, so I'll leave it on 700. So let's see how this particular one, let's close out our initial animation and see how this our new one is. We have this. Let's see if we click on the orange, let's see what happens. So you can see it's moving on to the next one. So we animate for all our frames. For this next one, we want it that once we click on this purple, it should take us to this next frame. So since we have changed the settings of this interaction in the first frame that we just prototype, it's going to still reflect on the next interaction, and that is why these settings are still the same. The only thing that changes is our destination, because that is where we directed it to go to. So it's still on, it's going to relax, still on smart animation, is out, and 700. So we got that already. On this last one, we want to that once we click on this green, it takes us to our green frame, which is still the same thing. So once we go to our animation, we click on our green, it takes us to click on our, it takes us to this. So let's go through everything again and see how it happens. Let's play it from the beginning. So we click on our orange, it takes us to our orange frame. Click on our purple, takes us to the purple frame. Click on, so notice how the text and the button are changing according to how we moved it. So that is that about this simple animation. With this, I've come to the end of this animation video. For the next few weeks, I'm going to be posting more videos on animation. So if you want to dive deep on how to animate in Figma, this is your channel. So stay tuned for more videos.